Several years ago, I was called to be a primary teacher in my ward, and I was called to be a primary teacher of a class of 9-year-old boys. And I had no idea what to do with 9-year-old boys, and so I decided that I would take 2 at a time and take them out to dinner and get to know them, because that sounded like a good idea, to go on a date with a bunch of 9-year-old boys. So one night I was with 2 boys in particular, and one of the boys said, "Sister C, how come we've never met your husband?" And I said, "Well, I don't have a husband." "You don't?" No. And I thought, this is going to be fun. This is going to be a great conversation. And he said, "Well, do you want to have a husband?" And I said, "Mm-hmm." And he said, "How old are you?" And I told him my age, and he said, "Wow, my mom's that old, and she has 5 kids already." And I said, thank you. I hate you. So he asked again, he said, "Well, no, really, do you want to have a husband?" And I said, I actually do. And he said, "Well, does Heavenly Father want you to have a husband?" And I said, "I think he does, yes." And he said, "Well, if you want a husband and Heavenly Father wants you to have a husband, what are you waiting for?" And I loved that. You know, that class actually took it upon themselves to start praying for my husband. And I found out that it kind of became a ward movement, like it happened during family prayer in some homes. You know, it's been several years, and those boys are actually right this very day serving missions. And technically I'm still waiting. And I have been kind of fascinated over the course of the last few years, not just in that part of my life, but in other parts of my life, the lessons that I've learned about waiting. And here's what I've been really interested in. I have met thousands and thousands of women, particularly through my responsibilities at Time Out for Women. And I have learned something really interesting that we all have in common. At one time or another, we are all women in waiting. In this very hall tonight are women who are waiting, some waiting for the return of a prodigal child, some waiting for the promise of children. In this room are women waiting for healing, whether spiritual or physical. In this room are women waiting for forgiveness, whether to receive it or to grant it. There are teenage girls here tonight waiting for a testimony or waiting for things to work out with their parents. I don't care how old we are. I don't care what our life situation is. We're all waiting. There are some women here waiting for a husband to show up with them at church, while others of us wait for a husband to show up at all. But we're waiting. And I have learned personally, firsthand, that there is a purpose when the Lord asks us to wait.